Welcome to ywcc, Young Women's Christian Council. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's topic is there anything too hard for God? He makes the impossible possible. The scripture reference is Joshua chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. And that reads, Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thy hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall come past the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. Many of us are familiar with this story, wherein God had spoken to Joshua regarding his plan to give the Israelites the city of Jericho. However, when we see this word, however, we know that there's a contradiction somewhere. This word is a way of introducing a complication to the situation. There was a problem. Their problem was in the form of a physical wall, which was preventing them from entering into Jericho because their enemies feared them. This wall wouldn't allow anyone in or out. Is there an area in your life where God has made you a promise, or you're asking God for a breakthrough, but you're seemingly up against a wall? Nothing will move, nothing will grow, and nothing will go. That's in the way of you possessing your blessing. Could it be that the enemy is trying to keep you from possessing the impossible in your life out of fear of what you will do when you receive it? Although God had given this word, he knew it was going to take a supernatural move from heaven in order for this promise to manifest. God knows what you're up against and knows what it's going to take to fulfill his word in your life. All he requires from you is your faith and obedience. As the story continues, the Israelites mobilized themselves in obedience to God's instructions. We have to be pliable women of God to God's way. We may have an idea of how to get the promise of God or our blessing, but we must be willing to change our course if God has a different plan. What I like is that they didn't march alone. The ark of God, which represented his presence, was with them in it. That alone should encourage us that we're not in this alone. God is with us, and where God's presence is, his power is too. So after marching 6 days, they arrived to the 7th day, the day of completion. They marched around 7 times, and then the priests began to sound the ram's horns, and the people followed with a shout. Victory has a sound. If you would please go with me in my imagination of that moment. I believe God got the signal from the people. The people released the sound. God released his power, and the wall released its strength and fell down. The word said suddenly the walls of Jericho collapsed. In just one moment, God has the power to release in your life what has been bound up for years. What is your it that you need God to make possible? God has a plan to get you to the fulfilled promise. As we're wrapping up this lesson, there's something that I noticed in this story. God didn't require them to exert physical effort and use equipment like a sledgehammer to bring the wall down. He knew that only he could do this, and also God knew that they would need their energy to go to battle once the wall came down. We will wear ourselves out trying to do God's job and ours. Please allow me to share this final thought with you. Some promises that God will give to us requires us to possess, take control of, and maintain them. They didn't go in passively and sit for tea and coffee. They went in and possessed the promise that God had given them. They were aggressive in possessing God's promise and refused to allow the enemy to keep what he'd given them. If God promised you a job, you have to show up for the interview and accept the offer. You have to show up and do the work to maintain the job. God released the promise, but the people had to possess the promise and take control of it. But Jesus looked at them and said, "With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible." And that's Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. The end. God bless you, and thank you for joining me today.